Students, today I had a family emergency. My daughter's sick, so I'm about to leave. I'm making this video for third and fourth blocks. Just to finish your notes, 3-5 that we started. Just watch the video, take the notes, and I'm going to do the short version on this. Yesterday I know we explained how to complete the square with a diagram, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but this I did want you to see at least a couple more of these. If you're going to try it 1A here, or 2A here, you do -9, -9. That gives you x squared plus 16x equals -9. So to complete the square, you let x squared be the big square. That makes that x and x. You split 16x up as 8x, 8x. That makes this little side of the rectangle 8. That makes this little side of the rectangle 8, which, like yesterday, we saw that makes this square have an area of 64. That's the number that completes the square. That's the number that we're going to add to both sides of this equation. On the right side, -9 plus 64 is 55. That now lets us, this is now factorable. If you actually went through the process of factoring, you would have done x and x. All right, you would have done this easily sign rule plus, factors of 64, they had to give you 16, it'd be 8 and 8. They will always work out like that, which instead of writing x plus 8 twice, we'll just write x plus 8 squared. By doing so, you can now do 2 steps to get your variable by itself. Square root both sides, square root both sides. And that gives you x plus 8 equals plus or minus square root of 55. I should try to simplify the square root of 55. There are no perfect square factors of 55, or if you try to do a tree, the only factors are 5 and 11, prime, no pairs. That's simplified. So all we have to do to get x by itself is just -8, -8. Final answer, x equals -8 plus or minus the square root of 55. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move on. I gotta get out of here. Try it to be over here. You would approach the same way. If you're gonna use the diagram, first kick the 8 off, and then give you x squared minus 4x equals -8. Then make your diagram. This is x squared. That means that's x and x. Split -4x up, that's -2x, -2x. If you're gonna have an area down here of -2x, that means that this side's -2, that's -2. And when you multiply -2 times -2, you get +4. The number that completes the square will always be positive. So we add 4, and again, the right side, you just add -8 and 4, that's -4. This is now factorable. You can actually go through the process of factoring. I already know, if you do the diagram, I know it's going to be x minus 2 squared. But if you're having a hard time understanding that, just factor it. X, it's the easily sign rule. You need 2 negative factors of 4 so that when you add them, you get -4. It's got to be -2 and -2. It's the same thing as the sides of your big square diagram. And then from there, you would just square root. This week we learned that the square root of -4, because it's plus or minus, and because it's got a negative under it, it's I. The square root of 4 is 2. That one came out to just be 2i. Leaves me with x minus 2, and then I have to add 2 to both sides. That gives me x equals 2 plus or minus 2i. All right, I'm gonna go to the back page. I'm trying to keep this video at 10 minutes. So let me roll through this. For your notes, the first blank is move the constant. We already filled that out once. Guys, on the back, we're going to solve it algebraically without the square diagram. But if you like the square diagram, do it every time. Move the constant term to the other side. You start it the same way. We will do this step on example 4. Divide every term by the a if a is not equal to 1. Guys, this is just repetitive. Find the new value of c by dividing the coefficient of the b term. Guys, we took half of the b term to make our little rectangles in the diagram in half, and then we turned around and square the result, and we got to make sure we add it to both sides. Then we factored, then we solved for x. I'm bad about that. I didn't make us check our solutions. Let's do, guys, example 3 is the exact same as example 2. Let's just look at how you could have done it without actually making the square diagram. Minus 2, you would get x squared plus 6x equals negative 2. If you go, the formula to complete the square is b divided by 2 squared. That'll give you what completes the square. So we take half of 6, which everybody knows is 3. And when we square 3, it gives us 9. We would add 9 to both sides. That gives me let's do the easy side, and that's just negative 2 plus 9 is 7. This is now factorable. I can factor it. Factors of 9 that add to give me 6. Positive 3 and positive 3, x plus 3 squared. When you do it this way, whatever half of b is will always be what's in your factor. Half of b will be in your factor. And then from there you square root, and you get x plus 3 equals plus or minus. You should try to simplify square root of 7. Square root of 7 can't be simplified because it doesn't have any perfect square factors. So you would just write square root of 7, and then minus 3. Final answer is x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. That's the same answer we should have gotten on 2A if I'm not crazy and I'm not rushing around. If I am, let me check. Yeah, yesterday we got negative 3 plus or minus root 7. Let's do this one. This is the same as example 2B. Minus 3, x squared minus 2x equals negative 3. Take half of b and square it. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Squared is positive 1. You will always get a positive number when you square something. If you're going to put it in the calculator, make sure you use parentheses. That will mess you up if you don't. You always add a positive number to complete the square. This will always factor to be whatever this number is. X minus 1 squared equals negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. Square root both sides, X minus 1 equals plus or minus. We got the square root of negative 2. You should know that's going to have an I in it. You should try to simplify the square root of 2. You can't. So you would just add 1. Final answer would be x equals 1 plus or minus I root 2, which is what we got yesterday on example 2B, but we used the square yesterday. Here, we didn't use the square. All right. I'll leave this one for you to try if you just want to test yourself. That answer should be x equals 1 plus or minus 4i. Let me knock out this last example. So that tries for y'all. What happens when a is not 1? In other words, look at example 4. Back when we were factoring, when you had a number in front, we had to either slide and divide or group it. When you got a number in front here, we have to do something about it. So the easy way to fix it is if you have a leading coefficient other than 1, you can divide by a, whatever that number is. I got an example here. We divided everything by 5 right there. It really doesn't matter when you do it. I just wouldn't, if everything's not divisible in the beginning by the number, I'd go ahead and get rid of my constant. Minus 74. Let me move my screen up. How I'd approach this one, I would minus 74. That would give me 8x squared plus 16x equals negative 64. Now I would go through, we got 8 in front, let's get rid of it by dividing everything by 8. That's just x squared, that's 2x. When you do negative 64 divided by 8, that's negative 8. Remember, now it's time to complete the square. To do that, you take half of b. So you do 2 divided by 2 squared. That's 1 squared. Obviously, 1 squared is 1. We would add 1 here, 1 here. That lets us factor this, catch on to this. It'll help. Whatever half of b was is what's going to go in our factor, or you could just factor it old school. Factors of 1 that add to give me 2. It's got to be 1 and 1. X plus 1 squared equals -8 plus 1 is -7. So I square root both sides. That gives me x plus 1 equals, if you simplify that, you know it's going to have an I in it. Plus or minus I, because it's got a negative underneath. The square root of 7 can't be simplified. I root 7. Take away 1, take away 1. Guys, that last step, I wouldn't even show my work for. I just moved the number over. But you get x equals -1 plus or minus I root 7. I'm at 10:47 right now. On my time, I tried to make it 10 minutes. Let me do the try it with you, just to see one more like this. You can pause the video. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. All right, so start it the same way every time. Get rid of 18. That leaves you with -2x squared minus 12x equals -18. We don't like having a number in front, so divide everything by it. -2, -2, -2. That gives you x squared. -12 by -2 is positive 6x. -18 by -2 is positive 9. 1 second, guys. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, are you?
I'm leaving. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm making a video right now to let them watch.
Okay.
You're welcome to come in.
I'll be back.
I've got all the stuff over here. My video's recording.
But you don't have anybody in here right
No,
now, so
ma'am.
I can just run down here and eat lunch.
Yes, ma'am. It'll take me 1 minute to finish this video.
I'm gonna go back in her room and
Okay.
I'll eat lunch and I'll be back.
Whose room are you in?
Miss Smith.
Okay, I'll come by and speak to you. Sorry about that. That was the sub. So right here, that puts this line. It's time to complete the square again. Divide the middle number by 2. 6 divided by 2 squared. That's 3 squared, which is 9. So I add 9 to both sides. That makes this guy factorable. Obviously, that's 18 over there. This is factorable. It'll always be that number, x plus 3 squared. I'm going to slide up a little bit to finish this one off. Sorry for the pause. I was looking at this, something looked different. Oh, we're good. We were at this point, x plus 3 squared equals 18. Square root, x plus 3 equals plus or minus. We need to simplify square root of 18. I like the tree. Or you could break it up as 2 and 9. 3 and 3. That simplifies to be 3 root 2. If you didn't do the tree, you would have done square root of 9 times 3. Times 2. That would be 3 root 2. And then last step, minus 3. Final answer, x equals -3 plus or minus 3 root 2. Sorry for the distraction there at the end. I got a little distracted. Y'all complete practice 3.5 and call it a week. Bye.